Welcome to the Personality Couch podcast, where we discuss all things personality and clinical practice. I'm your host, Doc Bach, and I'm here with my co-host, Doc Fish. We are both licensed clinical psychologists in group practice, and today we will be talking about more personality typologies as ice cream flavors. But these aren't just any flavors. These are the ones coined by the greatest of all time, American psychologist Dr. Theodore Millon. He not only influenced the DSM personality categories that we use today, but he had even more categories and flavors. Let's find out more. So, Doc Fish, I like to think of personality types like ice cream flavors. And with that, the possibilities are endless. And Dr. Theodore Millon himself was a whiz at coming up with these sort of new flavors that really captured all the tastes. So today we don't have time to go into his unique theory of like how ice cream or personality is constructed, right, or all the nuances of making the flavors or the combinations of flavors. Mm-hmm. But I think we could safely start with maybe 6 of his types that are unique. So I'm wondering if you could start us off.
Okay. So there's 6 types that differ from the DSM language that we often use. So let's start with the one that I like to call the Eeyore personality, melancholic. Okay, so melancholic, it highlights like sadness, feeling dejected, worry, like nothing good is going to happen to me anyway. Got your head down in the slumps. Things are always gray, always finding the negative. Wow. And it's constant. It's not just a period of time. Right? It's not like a storm. It's always that black cloud is hanging over your head. Of course, if there's a black cloud hanging over your head, right, there's negative mood or a bad mood, right? There's just really feeling unhappy, feeling inadequate.
Wow. This is not a happy ice cream flavor.
It's not. Ice creams should be happy. This one's not happy.
Yeah. Not all personalities are happy. And that's kind of the beauty of it is right. It's a kaleidoscope of different colors. Mm-hmm. But this character structure is, gloomy and just kind of Eeyore-like woe is me. Everything's gray. The world is gray, kind of seeing everything through these gray lenses, it seems.
No joy. Had to put that into an ice cream flavor. Like what would this be?
Ooh, is it like a dirt pie or like a mud pie? Like life is meaningless.
Yeah, I like the charred marshmallow. Like you're burnt. You're burnt, right? And it's just gray and just stays gray. It's supposed to be ice cream. It's supposed to be sweet.
Colored with gray. Yeah, because life is gloomy, life is meaningless. I imagine that these temperaments perhaps are more prone to depression.
Yes. So that's tricky though, because sometimes, like if we go with the cloud analogy, right? Personality wise, they're going to have that black cloud that's over their heads, right? But depression can look a little bit different. Depression can look like a storm that comes in, like really intense, a lot of thunder, a lot of lightning, a lot of rain, but then it can go away just as quickly. Not just as quickly, it has to be at least 2 weeks. But compare that to more of a persistent depression, which would be like if it was always foggy, maybe you can, if you're driving in your car, you can use your windshield wipers. Fog goes away a little bit, comes back. But this one's not fog. It's like part of the personality that follows you to a point where it becomes you, right? Like Eeyore almost like internalizes the cloud. Like he is gray.
Yeah, the cloud is part of him.
Yeah.
So it's not the same as a major depressive episode or persistent depression, because it's a personality trait. Like that just negative gloominess is part of you, part of the personality structure.
But I think you're right. If it's already part of you, you may have more storms and more fog. You may not necessarily feel like it's uncomfortable to be in a storm, though, if you're already sad and gloomy, right? It's like,
right.
I feel like Tigger would bounce home, right? Like, oh, it's a storm. Let's maybe try to get out of it.
Yeah.
I feel like Eeyore is going to just be like, oh, it's storming again. Doesn't change the walk. Guess I'll go home.
So maybe also because these character structures are almost seems like less likely to seek out positive experiences, just because there's such an internalized experience of gloominess.
Yeah.
That there may not be that positive reinforcement in the environment to help get them out of it, but also it's part of them it wouldn't necessarily go away.
Right. And I wonder, they deserve, well, they feel like they deserve to be the unhappy self that they are, right? So they probably are going to reject positive things. If something good happens to them, it's not going to last, maybe, or like, this isn't mine, I'm going to reject it. Like, you can have it, but not me.
That's interesting. So really gloomy characters.
Yeah. But then we have vastly different category of turbulent.
Oh my goodness.
So what do you know about turbulence?
Yeah. So like worlds different. So I think with Tigger's energy, he's bouncing everywhere.
Yes. Yep.
Like there might be a little bit of turbulent personality energy in Tigger. Not necessarily. I don't know that for sure. But when I think of turbulent personality structures, I think of energy expenditure. What's another way to say that? That's not using the word expended. Energy highs and lows.
Okay.
Yeah. So like using up a lot of energy and then having kind of a slide down into exhaustion, sometimes into lower mood or into depression. But these character structures have generally a lot of energy, and others can experience them as just a lot. Like they can be kind of over the top or just maybe effusive or having a lot of emotionful expression.
Yeah.
And tend to like to have a lot of different activities and feel like they're capable of doing a bunch of different activities, kind of bouncing from one thing to the next. And then they use up all that energy and fall into exhaustion,
right,
or sometimes a lower mood state. So there can be lots of ups and downs with the turbulent structure.
Okay, so it's like a roller coaster.
Yeah.
But it sounds like the majority of it is that high energy until you run out and you have to refuel.
Because you're human. Like we can't. Yeah, we can't run at that level all the time.
Right, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So would that go with being bored easily too?
Yes. Constantly seeking more stimulation, like new activities, new things. And perhaps there's like a subconscious part of like wanting to keep the energy levels up. So, on to the next thing. Oh, on to the next thing. Oh, we have another thing. And then when there's not as much to do, or there aren't as many activities, or you've done too much, it can lead to that kind of backslide into more negative emotions.
Right, because if you keep piling things on or starting things, not finishing them or anything like that, yeah, you're going to get exhausted.
Exactly. It's too much. It's too much. What would you add? What do you know about turbulent?
Outgoing. So with all of that energy, I think that energy not only goes into tasks, but also people.
Oh, sure.
And maybe even like kind of a dreaming or creativity, perhaps. Like the energy has to go somewhere. So just energetic, enthusiastic towards life. And I feel like in the opposite way of the melancholic that we talked about, the Eeyore, it's like they're the optimist. They want to help other people be optimistic as well, motivate other people because they maybe want to avoid the low energy. They don't want to refuel.
Right. I'm just thinking back on other typologies, like the four temperaments. So melancholy is one of the four temperaments, and that was thought to come about from excess bile. And then the very sunny disposition can be like too much sunshine, like sunshine's in your face, it's too much, would be not only turbulent, but possibly also sanguine.
Okay.
Yeah, which was thought to derive in the blood.
Interesting. Is it the life force?
Very opposite temperaments so far.
Yes.
But what would this flavor be if we had to give it a flavor?
So I was thinking coffee flavor, right? Because you have to have the energy.
Yeah.
But then with all the things, so Fruit Loops, fudge, sprinkles, like all the sugar, like add in all of it. So it's too much. It's like a toddler's best fantasy ever and the parents' worst. Just too much sugar, and then it's going to come with the crash, right? A sugar crash, which are the lows. But at the same time, I'm not sure if that captures it fully. What do you think?
Yeah. Well, I think we're onto something with the energy, like needing the caffeine to be able to keep that high, and the sprinkles and just the excess, the Fruit Loops. It's too much. It's too much. Like, and it's like sickeningly sweet.
Yes.
That can also be a part of turbulent, where it's like too much sunshine, too much sweetness. It's in excess. So any flavor that's going to be just like, I don't know, when you have those candies or that sweet and it just like hits you in the back of the throat because it's
and it burns.
It's too much.
Yeah.
That would be this flavor of ice cream.
Okay. I was also thinking like a flavor flight.
Oh.
So like just like little taster spoons or little cups of just like all of the flavors. Gotta try them all. Can't be left out. You have to have all the experiences.
Right. Like a little shot glass of each flavor that's on tap.
Yep. On scoop.
On scoop.
Yeah.
Right. Because we have to try them all. Like all the experiences, do all the things, all the fun.
Right. And then they're going to be curled up in the back of the store taking a cat nap because they crashed.
Yeah. Or they have a bellyache and
that too.
Roll out of the ice cream shop.
just roll. As fun as that sounds, those downs, like that feels maybe frustrating, hopeless, depending on how down you might get.
Yeah. I think different turbulent structures feel that differently. And their lows can look different. I mean, for every person regardless. Sure. But I think for turbulent, the highs are pretty unmistakable. Like, this person is very joyous, exuberant. But then the lows can look probably pretty different of what the crash is.
That makes sense. So with the depression with melancholic, I was also thinking turbulent, that almost looks like, or the concept seems similar to bipolar, like with those ups and downs.
Yes, good point.
But it's not bipolar. So what are the differences?
Yeah. Well, I think like we were talking about before, like maybe certain temperaments are prone to certain mood disorders. And this is probably one of those where someone who's already temperamentally prone to highs and lows potentially is prone to mood disorder highs and lows, as we see in bipolar as well. So I think that there can be some co-occurring of turbulent structure and bipolar, however, not always. So like we've talked about with the melancholic, if it's mood, it can come and go, versus temperament is stable. Like it's part of you. The ups and downs are more personality based, versus with bipolar, if you're having a depressive episode or a manic episode, those are organic changes happening in the brain that are not personality based.
Like they're not triggered. It just happens. I was thinking it almost feels like the turbulent personality piece is like life is the roller coaster.
Yeah.
Right. It goes, and then the bipolar piece feels like that wasn't the plan, but somebody cast you on a roller coaster for a little bit.
That's a really good way to distinguish those two. Yeah. Like someone with a turbulent structure is in for the ride. Like, let's go, highs. And the lows just happen because that's part of being on a roller coaster. Right. But yeah, the person with bipolar, this isn't sought after. And not that anyone like chooses their temperament either. That's not what we're saying. But like as you're becoming hardwired in that process, you're maybe prone to wanting to ride the roller coasters versus, like you said, just being placed on that ride because of your brain chemistry and genetic makeup.
Yeah. We have more.
Okay, what's next?
So, sadistic. So, obviously mean, critical. They're not the unhappy ones. They're the ones that want to make other people unhappy, tear them down, control others. They're just rough, argumentative. What else?
Yikes. This is not someone you'd want to have as a friend, a sadistic personality structure. If you have this person in your life, you should probably run.
It would be safer to run.
Yeah. Yes. Because character structures who are sadistic are in it for themselves and actually receive some type of pleasure or satisfaction from tearing others down, whether that's humiliating them, watching them suffer, making them hurt, knocking them down a peg. Like there's something inherently satisfactory in a sadistic person.
Right. They don't care. They don't care about others' feelings.
So there's a lack of empathy.
They can become angry easily as well.
Right.
So what this really stems from, what the core is they don't trust others easily. So then they need to also use others. They can exploit others.
Right. Tear them down.
Right. It's like a bulldozer. They just bulldoze.
And bully.
And enjoy it. Obviously, this can cause legal problems. Gosh, it's a dark personality. What flavor ice cream?
Oh, this would be a dark flavor. Black, something sinister. A sinister flavor.
Okay, so let's put the pleasure or the satisfaction in others' pain, essentially, right?
Yeah.
So what if it looks enticing? It looks like ice cream, but it's actually just glue and arsenic. like it's not ice cream.
Oh no.
And so the sadistic person, the sadistic structure is going to sit in the corner. They're going to watch people eat this ice cream that they created. And they're going to find pleasure. And I got that person.
Oh my gosh.
Look at that person eating that ice cream. That's not actually ice cream. It's poison.
Yeah. And I'm going to enjoy watching them keel over and revel in the fact that I had that power.
Right.
This one sounds a lot like what the DSM classifies as antisocial personality disorder, but it's a little different in the focus seems to be on receiving pleasure from watching others suffer.
Right. So that's not necessarily a core component of antisocial. Antisocial is going to be against the norms, against society. They're just going to reject ice cream. They're not going to consume it. They're going to be like, this is the flock of sheep likes ice cream. I'm not going to. And there is a darkness in that, but it's not necessarily lashing out to get others to have pain so they can watch it in enjoyment.
Yeah, like it sounds like someone who has a sadistic personality structure could also potentially meet criteria for antisocial
Yes.
personality disorder. But the pleasure from pain, from watching others being in pain, is not a core part of that personality disorder. But it makes sense that it would go hand in hand with problems with the law because
right.
I can't think of any context where that's okay.
Exactly. And I think maybe here would be a great segue into masochistic. I was thinking, so sadistic, right? Ursula from The Little Mermaid sets up the situation to require the Little Mermaid to give up her voice, but then she enjoys that suffering for her.
And she's angry. Like Ursula gets angry and throws a nasty fit. And that speaks to the anger or the rage that can be part of the sadistic. But the masochistic, like, talk about that. So it sounds like Ariel would be the sort of masochistic structure in The Little Mermaid.
Mm-hmm. So she accepted and placed herself in the situation in which she gave up her voice. So she placed herself in a victim situation. So those who are masochistic or have masochistic structures are also sad, hopeless, may not expect things to get better. There's a pessimism there. But they seem to enjoy their misery. It's comfortable. They might think they're worthless, that everything's their fault. They don't deserve good things. It's to a point where they may sabotage good situations or create situations where they get hurt and rejected.
It's like a dog licking their wound, like tending to the wounds. Like there's something maybe even reinforcing about the pain. Like there's comfort in the pain.
Right.
And numbing.
Right. So like Ariel, she didn't go around like Eeyore. She had moments of sadness, but it wasn't her. It wasn't internalized. She was okay with it. She gave up her voice for love.
She did.
It was okay. She enjoyed her journey with the love piece, right? But at a very high cost.
Right. That potentially could have been catastrophic for her had there not been other interventions, which I think is going back to the drama triangle.
Fair enough, yeah.
Kind of setting yourself up. So someone who's a more masochistic structure sounds like they're going to be perhaps in that victim role lot. Like they maybe seek out situations or are drawn to situations where they are going to be victimized or a victim. And it's not typically a conscious process either, but it's just they're always finding themselves in these sticky scenarios where they're not getting the best out of life, or they're okay being mistreated, or
because they don't deserve anything else. And if you have that core belief, that's okay. It just, that's what life is. And it may even be uncomfortable to have good things or to escape that victim role.
Right. So that internalized core belief about the self, that I'm undeserving, I don't deserve any better. Pain is comfortable to me.
Oh, yeah.
So you can probably see how someone who's sadistic might prey on someone who's masochistic, because the person who's sadistic loves watching people suffer, and someone who's masochistic is going to kind of willingly hand over, like, oh, here's all my pieces, take it.
You deserve them. I don't.
I imagine that dynamic happens a lot because there's a magnetism to those two personality types that's unfortunately destructive.
Complementary and destructive.
Yeah.
So keeping with ice cream, maybe these individuals didn't even make it to the ice cream shop because they sabotaged it.
They didn't even make the trip.
They didn't even make it. Or maybe they sabotaged and they got there just as the store closes. They offered to lick up the leftovers with their tears mixed in. Like,
all the while saying I didn't deserve ice cream today anyway.
Yeah, that's my life.
Oh, that's really sad.
It is. And we're being humorous and entertaining, dramatic about it, right? But it really is sad.
But that's common. That's the sabotaging the good things that will come. In this scenario, it's making it to the ice cream shop and they can't even make it to have a flavor named in their honor because they cut off that potential good thing. I can also see how this type would potentially elicit a rescuer. Someone who's like, I'll save the day. I'll make sure that you get ice cream.
Ooh, that's a good point. I would think it would have to be somebody who may either switch between rescuer and perpetrator, because masochistic, they need that pain. They need to feel the emotional pain to feel comfortable. Or they at least need two characters. Like, it has to be a triangle.
Personalities are complicated. Much more complicated than a flavor of ice cream.
Oh, absolutely. I think we have 2 more flavors.
Yeah. What else do we have?
Okay. Negativistic.
Okay.
So negativistic is maybe going to be like more passive aggressive. They're going to be grouchy. They don't trust other people. They also think like they just have really bad luck in life and it's not their fault, but also it's not really other people's fault. They believe that maybe they're blamed for things they didn't do. So they're unjustly blamed.
Okay.
But then they also then will resist what others want them to do. So it's kind of a conflict. They want to defer to others, but then they also want to be defiant.
I have multiple thoughts about this one. But yeah, the conflict of like, there's a push-pull in this type, or different sides of this type. I'm thinking of Enneagram language. I'm like, I wonder if type 6s might be more prone to that because of the kind of the back and forth. And I want to defer to people. I want to be compliant, but I also don't trust people. This sounds like a really embittered type.
Yes.
Like, I don't trust the world. I've been hurt and I just have a chip on my shoulder.
Yep. I have a chip on my shoulder. I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop because I don't trust people. And their moods, which are mostly negative, they're going to change rapidly. So daily, hourly. It's not like a stable negative. It changes. It's anger, annoyance, frustration. Like it's going to be irritable and negative, but it's still going to change.
Yeah. But then there's also like a compliance piece, like being somewhat of a rule follower, to want to defer to other people or social expectations, but yet being frustrated, angry, irritable about the same things, feeling like you're not getting what you deserve in life, or things aren't right, they're not fair.
Instead of sitting in that, like maybe a masochistic or melancholic might do, they're going to project it. They're going to give it to someone else. They're going to place it on someone else.
Oh.
and then handle it and react to it in someone else instead of sitting with it themselves. Yeah.
That makes sense. So the pain is your problem. It's not my problem. It's your problem.
And I get to be angry about it.
Right. The anger's mine. I'm just going to keep being bitter and keep kind of nursing this grudge or having a chip on my shoulder about things. But I'm going to be angry at you. You're going to hold the anger. You're going to hold the stuff that I'm rejecting.
Mm-hmm. What would that taste like? What flavor?
Bitter. Just
absolutely
something bitter, like apple cider vinegar ice cream or something.
Yeah.
Just like
with like grapefruit, kale, sardines.
Oh, gross.
All the bitter stuff.
Just really bitter. Yeah.
But like it also should be flavored green, like Oscar the Grouch.
Okay, so making it green so it looks grouchy. Like,
oh yeah, grouchy.
Like Oscar. So these are kind of grumpy people, but not Eeyore, like not woe is me, but just grumpy, chip on their shoulder, maybe something to prove. Maybe a bit more antagonistic, but also can defer to other people. So it's that conflict again. Like,
right. They're going to defer to other people, but mutter to themselves while they're doing it.
Right. Right. Yeah, I'll bring the neighbor's trash can around again. Oh, but he doesn't do it. He doesn't take in his own trash. Like,
yep. Exactly. Yes.
It was trash day today. I was thinking about that.
Okay. Well, plus Oscar, of course.
Oh, and Oscar. I was primed to think of trash cans with Oscar the Grouch on trash day.
I could definitely see how this would impact relationships.
It would be hard to get close to someone with a negativistic structure because they're maybe a bit prickly.
Yeah.
Versus someone who's masochistic is going to be maybe more willing to enter into the relationship, but accept whatever crumbs fall from the table for that relationship. But someone who's negativistic might be a bit more skeptical and like, I don't know.
We have one more.
Okay. What's the last one?
Compulsive. What do you know about compulsive?
Yeah. Okay. So compulsive structures want to check all the boxes. These are the very compliant, conscientious types. So conscientious meaning really wanting to please, wanting to make sure everything's taken care of, very detail-oriented, focused, and want to check all the boxes. And in doing so, please others, but they tend to be kind of anxious and worrisome themselves.
So then maybe there's a conflict there. So they want to please others, and maybe a fear of not wanting to please others, or like that fear if they're not pleasing others, but then they have such high standards.
Yeah.
And they're going to place those high standards on others. So they're not out to get others, but they're so above board. They're so perfectionistic, and that needs to be cast on other people in their lives.
Right.
So then they might get angry, maybe.
When people fall short of their expectations. So these individuals are typically really proper. They can be serious, can come across as more reserved and just more proper or focused on morals and rules, and kind of oppositely to sadistic structures. Because they're so like above board or like focused on morals, they don't want to hurt other people. They want to follow the norms, do what's expected, check the box. But there will be some of that maybe muttering under their breath of, oh, this person didn't check that last box. How dare they? Or this person over here is not very moral.
And that can cause them anger. because it's not fitting in their own boxes.
Right.
It's a lot of energy.
It is. I see this compulsive, or maybe compulsivity is the way to think of it. I see it a lot as a shell. So if personalities are a gobstopper, you're going to have different layers. And sometimes that outer layer is compulsive. So there's a lot of rules, a lot of check boxes, a lot of I should, or this needs to happen, but it's often to cover up or to protect. Maybe to protect's a better way to say it. To protect from something deep within that maybe they're running from or hiding. But that seems to happen quite a bit.
Okay, so simplistically, this might look like if you're feeling really angry or you have a lot of emotion and then you go clean, right? You have to have that shell, like that energy has to go somewhere because you're trying to get rid of or undo or contain those emotions. At a personality level, maybe that would be as a shell, a compulsive shell. It's like the core of the gobstopper is chaotic. It's too intense. It's all over the place. In order to contain that, we have to put that shell. We have to follow the rules, be in charge or be in control of the outside environment because the inside's so messy.
Yeah, it's stormy. And I don't want to look at that. Sometimes it's like like I don't even want to look at it. So this is what I want to project to the outside world, that I'm moral and compliant and checking boxes. But really I'm running from deep, deep pain inside.
Right.
Or coping. Like my way to cope with it is to have control over the environment, especially after trauma.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. So the compulsive personality style, structure, it can go straight to the core. Like it can be all the way through the gobstopper. It's a great flavor. No other shells, no other surprises. Yeah. But it also can be a very strong shell with lots of other layers underneath, typically when there's deep pain.
So I think what I'm hearing is that if you see compulsivity or a possible compulsive personality, it's important to dig deeper.
Oh, always.
And see if that's the core or if that's just a protective shell.
Yeah, that's the interesting thing about personalities is they're complex and you never know, especially without extensive psychological testing or treatment, you don't really know what's at the core. But I think it's safe to say there's some types that won't co-occur together as shells. So like compulsive and sadistic, like some of these ones that require, or there's a focus on social mores or what's appropriate, socially appropriate conduct. Someone who's sadistic and is really against people is not going to care about that. So if there's a sense of that, if there's like a shell, it's probably just for a moment. I wouldn't say it's even a shell. It might be for some secondary gain temporarily, but most likely those are not going to co-occur.
Because compulsive is about rule following, and that's implemented on others. And then sadistic, or I was thinking maybe even antisocial more so, because antisocial is all against the rules.
Exactly. So many possibilities. So many possibilities and flavors. Did we say the flavor of compulsive?
We didn't.
What is it?
Not. Okay. First of all, it has to look good. So it has to be like perfectly symmetrical. Right? Like it's aesthetic. Maybe with some espresso in it because you need energy to do all the things the right way perfectly. Oh gosh. And then it's going to have to be like exactly like 2.2 grams of sugar. It's got to be, gluten-free, keto, vegan, paleo, but maybe even like caffeine-free, like because it has to be, it has to hit all the boxes.
Okay. So like decaf, espresso, ice cream,
Right.
like we've checked all the dietary need boxes to make sure that society sees us in a favorable light.
Right.
As an ice cream shop flavor.
Right. And then as they're walking around with their ice cream, maybe silently judging others for their ice cream choices.
Right. Or for dribbling it on the floor. And now you have to clean that up. And you just spent time cleaning the ice cream shop floor. And how dare this person, spill their stuff.
It's going to make them angry.
Right. But they're not going to say anything because that would not be socially appropriate. But they'll silently fume as they mop.
Right. Right. Like you're going to feel their anger. But it's probably not going to be verbalized.
Yeah.
Well, those are the 6 that we were going to discuss today.
I think we covered them. Yeah. So thank you, Millon, for your expertise with this. And there's so much more. Very simplistic today, but there's so much more for a later time. All right. Well, that's a wrap. Thank you for joining us today on this episode of The Personality Couch. Join us next time as we dive deeper into personality disorders, as well as different personality types and structures. Be well, be kind, and we'll see you next time on The Personality Couch. This podcast is for informational purposes only and does not constitute a professional relationship. If you're in need of professional help, please seek out appropriate resources in your area. Information about clinical trends or diagnoses are discussed in broad and universal terms and do not refer to any specific person or case.